A frontier AI model launched on Monday. By Friday, it was gone. Not paused in one app, not limited in one country. Anthropic says it had to disable Claude Fable 5 and Claude Mythos 5 for all customers worldwide. The trigger was a US government export control directive. The target, as Anthropic describes it, was accessed by foreign nationals, but the effect was much bigger. The model disappeared for everyone. That is the story people are reacting to. But the stranger story is underneath it. A public AI model, delivered through an API, was treated like a national security capability that could cross a border. And this did not happen before launch. It happened after the model was already inside developer tools, cloud platforms, and enterprise workflows. Here is the precise version. Anthropic says the US government issued an export control directive requiring the company to suspend access to Fable 5 and Mythos 5 by any foreign national, whether inside the United States, outside the United States, or working at Anthropic. That is not a simple switch. A model API is not a box of chips at a port. It is woven into products, Claude accounts, developer tools, Copilot, cloud platforms, enterprise agents, teams with employees scattered across countries and legal statuses. Anthropic says the only practical way to comply quickly was to disable both models for every customer. So the clean headline, the government banned Claude Fable 5, is too blunt. The more accurate version is more interesting. The government targeted foreign national access and the compliance blast radius became global. Fable 5 was real. Anthropic announced it on June 9. It was not framed as a minor upgrade. Anthropic called it a Mythos-class model, a new tier above Opus. Fable 5 was the safer public configuration. Mythos 5 was the more restricted configuration for trusted users. The pitch was huge. Long-running coding work. Agents that can sustain complex tasks. Deep knowledge work. Vision-heavy documents. Enterprise workflows. This is the kind of model you do not just chat with. You hand it a messy codebase. You let it plan. You let it use tools. You let it work for longer stretches of time. That is why this became a government problem so quickly. The question was no longer, can a chatbot answer a dangerous question? The question became, what capability moves across the border when someone gets API access? According to Anthropic, the government's concern was a possible jailbreak in Fable 5. But here the public record gets messy. Anthropic says the government letter did not give specific technical details. The company says it reviewed a demonstration and saw a narrow technique, not a universal jailbreak, not a master key, not a broad bypass that suddenly unlocks every restricted cyber capability. Anthropic says the technique involved asking the model to read a specific codebase and fix software flaws. It says the vulnerabilities were known, minor, and discoverable by other public models too. The government side, through public accounts and reporting, tells a different story. A trusted partner found something serious enough that officials asked Anthropic to fix it or dedeploy the model. Here is the uncomfortable part. The evidence that would settle the dispute is not public. We have Anthropic's statement. We have downstream platform notices. We have press reporting. We have public comments. We do not have the technical record that made the government pull the lever. So the honest conclusion is not, Fable was proven dangerous. It is also not, the government had no reason. The honest conclusion is that a high-stakes safety dispute happened behind a closed door and the public only saw the model vanish. Still, Anthropic's own documents explain why this model was sensitive. Fable 5 was the public version of a very powerful model family. The system card discusses safeguards around cybersecurity, biology and chemistry, distillation attempts, and frontier AI development. Some risky requests could be routed away from Fable to Opus 4.8. Fable also required 30-day data retention for safety monitoring. That matters in enterprise AI. Developers and companies care about zero data retention. They care about whether prompts and outputs are retained, even temporarily. GitHub made that contrast visible. Fable had a retention requirement, while other Claude models stayed under zero data retention. So before Washington stepped in, Fable already came with a bargain. More capability, more monitoring, more safety machinery, and more trust friction. There was another subtle issue. Anthropic's system card described interventions for a small slice of frontier AI development traffic. Anthropic estimated the affected traffic was tiny, but tiny can still matter when the affected users are AI labs, researchers, and infrastructure teams. If a model silently becomes less helpful on certain tasks, a user may not know what happened. Did the model fail? Did it refuse? Did a hidden safeguard shape the answer? That probably did not cause the directive by itself. Fable arrived with two questions attached. First, is this model safe enough to release? Second, can users tell what version of the model they are actually getting? When those two questions collide with national security, the room changes. The shutdown did not stay on Anthropic's website. GitHub updated its Copilot changelog. Access to Claude Fable 5 was suspended across all GitHub Copilot experiences. Microsoft added a notice to its Foundry announcement saying, Anthropic disabled Fable 5 and Mythos 5 globally to comply with the US government directive. That is the new dependency chain. Frontier models do not live in one chat box anymore. They sit inside IDEs, cloud services, coding agents, enterprise automation, and internal workflows. When the model is pulled, everything around it has to adapt. This is where the story becomes bigger than Anthropic. If one directive can remove a model from multiple platforms days after launch, then model availability is no longer just a product decision. It is a policy risk, a supply chain risk, and a deployment risk. David Sachs gave a public account of what he believes happened. He said a highly credible trusted partner found a Fable jailbreak and that the administration asked Anthropic to fix the jailbreak or dedeploy the model. According to that account, Anthropic did not agree that the finding justified pulling the model. There are also reports that Amazon and other companies raised concerns with officials. That layer needs careful handling. It may explain part of the political and business context, but it is not the same thing as public technical evidence. The missing document is still important. In this research pass, I did not find a public BIS, Commerce, or White House page with the directive text itself. That does not make the directive fake. Anthropic's statement and the platform notices support the core event. It means the government's detailed written reasoning is not public in the sources I could verify, and that gap is part of the story. The timing is what I keep coming back to. Anthropic says Fable was tested before launch by the US government, the UK AI Safety Institute, private third parties, and internal teams. This was not a model thrown over the wall with no safety process. So why did the shutdown happen after release? The most plausible answer is that a specific post-launch report changed the risk calculation. Once Fable was live, more people could test it under real conditions. Partners, competitors, agencies, customers with actual codebases and actual workflows. A pre-release safety debate became a live national security decision. And export controls are blunt tools. They are built to restrict access to controlled capabilities. If the government decides the capability is the model itself, then an API call starts to look less like ordinary software usage and more like a transfer. That is why the nationality rule matters. The order, as Anthropic describes it, did not simply say, patch a bug. It said, foreign nationals cannot access these models. Anthropic's global product apparently had no clean, instant way to enforce that. So the models went dark for everyone. Fable 5 may come back. Anthropic says it is working to restore access. But even if access returns, the precedent is already visible. A frontier model can launch on Monday, spread through developer and cloud platforms by Tuesday, become the subject of a private safety dispute by Thursday, and turn into an export control problem by Friday. That is the real story. Not just one model. Not just one jailbreak claim. A new line is being drawn around AI capability, and it is being drawn while the products are already live. For developers, this means your model dependency can change because of a government decision you never see. For AI labs, it means release is no longer the finish line. Release is the moment the real test begins. And for everyone watching the industry, Fable 5 is a warning shot. The next frontier model may not be judged only by benchmarks, price, or coding ability. It may be judged by who is allowed to touch it.